Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Modern Open here in sunny Caldwell, Ohio at the Apex Gaming home store. I'm Todd Tandy Anderson, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We are down to just 4 players left out of our 116 to start the day. 4 unique decks in the top 4. Ross, why don't you give us a breakdown of the 2 matches we'll be watching here in our semifinals?
So, our backup feature match features 3 seed Konstantin Kantartsis on Demir Murktide against 7 seed James Mangus on Orzhov Ketramos.
Mangus, we watched him earlier playing that Ketchamos deck. Looked great, played great, and man, he's been churning through these Murktide players.
So, we had 3 Demir Murktide players in this top 8, all 3 on very similar lists, differed by under 5 cards among all 3 of them. We saw James Mangus on camera in the Swiss take down Slavisa Jasanovic. He defeated Logan Underwood in the quarterfinals, so I have to imagine he's feeling very good going into this matchup, having beat this deck at least twice on the day.
All right, on the other side of the table, though, we're going to be watching our primary feature match this round. That's going to be Josh Moscow on Underworld Breach, your baby. Gonna get the axe tomorrow. Split it in half like Solomon's baby. I'm sorry.
We only had 1 copy in this top 8, but
It's still
Josh
going.
Moscow still remains as the lone hero. He'll be playing against Franklin Folks on Azorius Affinity. Very cool deck. These decks overlap in a lot of cards.
Yeah.
The Azorius deck still has that same Mox early creature engine with Tomio and Emery to develop a lot of fast mana. Still has Saga and that toolbox. We've noted that Folks has 3 main deck copies of Tormod's Crypt in his deck, so he's attacking the graveyard very hard. He's very good at winning the Tomio battle because he has 4 copies of Portable Hole, and then he has 4 Metallic Rebukes that Josh Moscow has to worry about. So a good amount of main deck interaction here, and then we get to go to the sideboard where he has even more.
And we'll talk about that when we get there. Just want to note, tomorrow is ban and restriction scheduled announcement. Everyone is assuming Underworld Breach is going to be banned. This is the last hurrah. Breach versus Affinity, the deck that people think is going to replace Breach as the best like Mox Opal deck. I don't know if that's true, but currently it's looking pretty darn good from Franklin Folks.
Certainly is looking good, has a lot of powerful starts, powerful draws, and good interaction. It really is a very well-rounded deck. I've been very impressed with it in the hands of Franklin Folks so far today.
Alrighty, well, the players are situated and ready in the feature match area, so let's head on down and see who makes it to the finals. It's going to be Moscow on your left, one of our Apex Predators from last year's top 8, playing against Franklin Folks, who I believe was also in the top 8, but not wearing his jersey.
Moscow, the #1 overall seed in the top 8, so he gets the privilege of being on the play here in game 1. Kicks us off with a Scalding Tarn, fetching for a Breeding Pool, falling to 17.
Here's a bubble, a Mox, and a turn 1 Rumble. I haven't seen a turn 1 Rumble before. That's gross.
This could be a turn 2 kill.
Oh,
There's
he's
a grinding station.
He's moving fast.
So if he takes a land and has a breach, that's a kill.
All right, give me 1 second. They're looking for some tokens. Maybe they have it. We have a different spotter now. We had our spotter Hardesty all day on top of it using our new tokens that we got from our friends over at Once Upon a Galaxy. Here we go. Thank you so much.
The hand is Misty Rainforest Lightning Bolt for Moscow, so hasn't found a breach yet. Gonna take the Aether Spell Bomb. That will allow him to sacrifice at least one of these baubles and still really achieve Metalcraft on the next turn.
All right, we're gonna take at least 1 crack here and look at the top card. Folks here, turn number 1 after an explosive turn from Josh, and we'll see if he can match.
So now, what sacking the bauble does, though, is it takes Moscow off of a lot of his potential ways to turn 2 kill, though with that Tormod script from Folks, that wasn't going to be an option anyway.
Okay, draws 1 for bauble, 1 for turn, finds Emery and another Mox, but this one is Mox Amber, so it can definitely be played here. Fetching with Misty Rainforest. Lacking red mana currently. Probably going to get Stevens.
Yeah, and has Emery to start generating some card advantage, potentially bait out this Tormod script. And the good news for Moscow is he has 2 copies of Mishra's Bauble, so he can leave that one that's in play there, start using the one in the graveyard with the Emery, and if Folks decides, hey, I don't like you doing that, I'm going to use the Tormod script, Moscow has a backup.
Okay, so Stevens down to 14 from Double Fetch Shock. We're going to play Mox Amber. Now we got both Mox and Online and Metalcraft.
What Moscow has to be worried about, though, is his list of Breach only has one main deck win condition in Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. If
Mm-hmm.
this Emery mills that Jace, he's in trouble.
Can still win via Saga, but the easy win is gone.
Okay, there's a Savine's Reclamation. That's another good way to bait out the Tormod's Crypt.
Okay, Ross. Maybe a new record. I don't know that I've ever seen in Modern someone use that much mana on turn number 2 for that many spells. Used every single mana. It was crazy. What's up? Woo! Big shout out to Misplaced Ginger. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate you, fam.
Welcome, Raiders. We are in our semifinals here.
I'm a big Misplaced Ginger fan. I watch him most days.
Same. So this is a round that matters a lot. These Apex Invitational qualifiers, or AIQs, are 2-slot affairs. So the winner of each of these matches will be qualified for November's Invitational. They are also 2-slot destination regional championship qualifiers. So a lot on the line for our players here, even in just the semifinals.
Our next event, for those of you at home who were unable to attend this weekend, is going to be June 14th for the next Apex Con. Mark your calendars and come on out and meet us. We're deep in the tournament here. Top 4 players left, 4 different decks in Modern, playing for $5,000 in cash and prizes.
So folks with a relatively weak turn, just playing the Shadow Spear and passing back to Moscow, and does decide to use the Tormod's Crypt to stop this Emery activation.
Okay, so maybe a successful bait from Moscow. Let's see if he's able to capitalize on it. No more Tormod's Crypt means no more protection, or at least no more fear of the graveyard.
Also means he doesn't have access to that grinding station anymore, so a breach off the top is still not lethal.
Right, and Savine's Reclamation also gone too, so that late game kill off of that is also gone.
Yeah, interesting, because Moscow had 5 mana available this turn with the 2 Mox and 2 lands and the Eldrazi spawn. Could have flashed back the Reclamation to bait out the Tormod's Crypt, and then if folks did use it, he still has the bauble in. He still would have had a bauble in play. I guess he sacrificed that bauble.
Finds Pithy Needle.
Interesting one.
Yeah, could have maybe played this first. If he probably drew that off of the.
Yeah, definitely drew it off of the spell bomb. So.
Okay, we'll get a confirmation in just a moment for what the name is for the Pithy Needle. And we're going to head back to Franklin Folks. Turn number 3. Plays a Razor Verge Bridge. Is that what's it called? I'm sorry.
Razor Tide Bridge.
Razor Tide Bridge.
So Moscow baited the Tormod's Crypt by exposing both baubles, but now he still has the Aether Spellbomb that can generate card advantage with the Emery. And very little in terms of proactive plays for folks. Maybe holding back a Metallic Rebuke.
That's what I was thinking. But also, Kappa Cannoneer is just expensive. And so, if that's the primary threat in hand, or if there's even 2 copies in hand, because he has 4 in the deck, you know, sometimes you're just going to draw a couple of those and have a clunky-ass draw.
Moscow going to fetch for a Hedge Maze.
Is there any one card he can hit for this Breach to win the game right now? Grinding Station?
No, because he doesn't have the Breach yet.
Yeah, he does.
What he?
Yes, he does.
He drew a Breach?
Yeah.
Yeah, then Grinding Station wins.
Nice. All right, so we put Tormod's Crypt on the Pithy Needle. We have confirmation on that. Aether Spellbomb is the cast from the graveyard. 2 cards in hand for Moscow.
Yeah, Malevolent Rumble would also be an excellent draw because he has 2 copies of Mox Opal, and he can use the Emery to start the chain with Rumble Opal.
Finds the Malevolent Rumble. It's going to meet a Metallic Rebuke, and Franklin going to bite here on the spell. It might actually cost him the game next turn, though, if he taps out for Kappa Cannoneer. And that's what it is. And we'll see if Moscow can win the game next turn in the face of this big baddie.
Gonna be hard for him to do that with so few cards in the graveyard, but see if he wants to go for it. So Moscow could say float off Mox Opal, play Mox Opal, Emery back Mox Opal, have 3 mana in pool, play Breach, have 3 cards in graveyard, play Rumble, and just hope to hit Grinding Station.
Wait. Do we have enough mana to bounce Kappa Cannoneer and pay this extravagant ward cost?
Yeah. And then, so has 5 mana available right now with Mox Opal, Spawn, and 3 lands. Could also then deploy the second Mox Opal and Tamio from his hand.
All right. So here is Tamio. We're gonna go ahead and play this other Mox. No, I think we can do. We have to float a mana and like main phase bounce. Then
Yeah,
we have to sack the spawn token as well. But I think it's all worth.
would have been a little better for Moscow to use the Mox Opal, the first one, to cast the Tamio. Then he could have played the second one and passed with all of this available, but I don't think it makes a difference. Folks was just going to untap and attack.
Yeah. And now folks are just gonna probably tap out and cap a cannoneer again.
Yeah. Doesn't have too many cards in hand, so that is likely the case, but could find a Chain of Thoughtcast, could find, a portable hole he wants to use on the Tamio. He could even portable hole into the Cannoneer. So plays Razortide Bridge. Probably wanted to do that after Cannoneer if he's casting that this turn.
I think he's thought monitoring.
Okay.
Okay.
Trying
So
to find some interaction.
if he finds one of those 3 metallic rebukes remaining, it could protect him from something next turn. I think I saw one. We'll see. Just keeping it close to the Vestas, folks. I'm only getting a glimpse, and he's putting him face down. Back to Moscow. Blue card. Look funky. Is it Emery?
Yeah, and Emery is a great draw for setting up the chain with Malevolent Rumble and Mox Opal. It just gives you fuel in the graveyard. And doesn't have to use the first Emery, can just keep that one around from the Legend rule.
Is it breach time?
Has access to only 5 total mana though. So if Moscow tries to play Emery then play Breach, it'll get hit by Metallic Rebuke.
Okay, well, it looks like we're just going to play it slow, play the Spell Bomb. We're going to go ahead and crack Clue. It's going to draw a card. And then we can crack Spell Bomb, draw another card, and then transform.
That's Shifting Woodland. So that makes it a lot easier for Moscow to just jam. Because if the Breach gets countered, he can Woodland it the following turn.
Right. Tamio flips. Get a +2, pass it back.
And now the Tamio can rebuy the Malevolent Rumble next turn to kickstart everything as well.
Yeah, it's such a powerful grab, too, because it gives you that mana off of it.
Yeah. We might even see Folks equip the Shadow Spear so that way the Thought Monitor attacks for 2 and takes away that option from Moscow.
Okay, looks like we're going to go ahead and play the Kappa Cannoneer. Okay. Comes in, gives itself a counter. And tap Seachrome Coast, Mox Opal, puts a counter. 1 card left in hand. I think it might be Metallic Rebuke. We'll see.
And it'll be pretty telling if Folks just attacks with Thought Monitor or even does nothing. Because he has the ability to equip the Shadow Spear and take away Moscow's ability to Malevolent Rumble. So if he had nothing in hand, he would certainly do that.
Maybe a way to disguise it would have been to, before you do anything, attack for 1 with a Thought Monitor. And then, well, we went face. I guess we're trying to kill with a Kappa Cannoneer, but Moscow going to minus here on this Malevolent Rumble, and it looks like we are off to the races. Rumble being cast.
Using the mana from Tamio.
Top 4 finds a second copy of Underworld Breach. We don't have the grinding station yet, so he's going to take a Mox Opal. Mox Amber, excuse me.
Oh, they're effectively the same. Mox Amber gives him an extra mana. Mox Opal gives him an extra mana. Taking second Breach would have basically played around the counterspell by letting the first get countered and then casting the second.
Rebuke here is not going to counter this Breach because we can pay 3, but 3 mana here is quite a bit. He just lets it resolve. Cast another
one. Okay.
Okay. Breach rich.
So that must have been the draw for turn. And now it would be scary to brick here, but he also has the Shifting Woodlands, so Folks is still going to have to top deck even if Moscow doesn't kill him here. So now the game plan is to cast Malevolent Rumble as many times as he can.
Right, and with the Moxen combined with Tamio being flipped, the Mox Amber can tap for green, so if that's the only one that can come back, you can keep rotating them and casting the Rumble off of the token. And so you're like minus a card or two each time you do this iteration, but you get a card from the
Yeah.
top 4 into your hand,
Yep.
and you keep looking for the kill.
You're minus 2 cards in graveyard because
Okay.
you're escaping 2 things, but Malevolent Rumble mills 4. So you dig 4 cards for every 2 cards in your graveyard, and every time you hit a Mox, like Moscow just did on that previous iteration, you take the Mox into your hand, and now it only costs you 3 cards of exile for escape to mill 4, and that helps extend the chain even further. We know one grinding station was exiled by that early Tormod's Crypt. There should be 2 still left in Moscow's deck. He's 3 in the main. Going to take Emery off of the latest Malevolent Rumble, so that is just 1 mana to mill 4 and keep the chain going as well. Another good hit off Rumble, and another reason why looping Rumble is so much more powerful than looping Emery.
Okay, Island is the fetch. We're going to play an Emery from hand. This is going to save some cards in the graveyard while still filling it up a bit. Still no grinding station. There's another Mox, and I can tap for green, and then we can play Rumble once again.
Yeah. And the Emery that's still left in play is not summoning 6, so Moscow has a free Mox later in this chain as well.
I think this might be deterministic. I don't know how many cards are left in deck, but I feel like we have enough in graveyard that we can just get there.
It's very difficult to miss from here.
Okay,
There's grinding station and Mox Opal, and that will do it. Folks is empty-handed. Moscow going to take game 1.
Okay. Good job there. Here's grinding station. We're going to make some mana, and then we're going to cast a Jace. And Folks is already packing up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We already know the deck list. We already know what the kill is.
Tight operations for Moscow. Had the breach for a couple turns. Played it patient because he didn't need to necessarily go for it immediately. Wasn't under that much pressure. Made sure he waited until a turn where he was 100% sure he was at least going to get to start that chain. And he had enough cards in the graveyard at that point that the chain was very, very likely to find him the grinding station.
All right, well, these players are going to be reaching for their sideboards, and they're going to probably take a little bit of time. This is an open deckless top 8 event, and so they're going to study those sideboards as they manipulate their sideboards and come up with a plan to defeat the other. Folks, on Affinity, down a game, how is he going to approach this matchup against Breach, the baddie of the format?
So, Franklin Folks' sideboard is 3 Consigned to Memory, 2 Damping Sphere, 3 Dispatch, 2 Lavinia Azorius Renegade, 2 Split Up, 1 The Stone Brain, and 2 Torpor Orb. Now, I like the Lavinias. I kind of like the Damping Spheres. They're okay. They do stop the combo. Folks is going to have to be careful about how he sequences them, though. It's not a card you want to run out early unless you're desperate and you need to stop the combo. It's a card you want to play at the end. Once he's established his board, has his pressure going, then you play the Damping Sphere. That way it doesn't impede your own development.
Right.
We've seen all day the importance of having a clock and disruption against combo decks. Sometimes Damping Sphere slows down your clock enough that the disruption is no longer relevant. But if it's played at the end after he establishes pressure, then it is a worthwhile lock piece to have. And then I would also consider these dispatches. The creature, back and forth is a very important part here. If somebody can establish an Emery, can establish a Tomio, that becomes very important.
I mean, Emery was MVP that game for Moscow. Easily drew 5 cards, maybe more.
It drew 5 cards and baited the Tormod's Crypt.
Right.
So it was incredibly important.
And filled the graveyard for Underworld Breach. It just does it all.
Yeah, and Folks' main deck removal is Portable Hold, which does not hit Emery. Always has 3 mana value on the battlefield. So Dispatch could be important to give himself an answer specifically for Emery.
All right, on the other side of the table, Josh Moscow on Underworld Breach, an impressive run so far in up a game. How is he going to fight off this Affinity deck? Any disenchant effects coming in?
So Moscow's sideboard is 1 Boseiju Who Endures, 4 Consigned to Memory, 1 Dismember, 1 Dress Down, 1 Fire Spout, 2 Flame of Anor, 1 Grape Shot, 1 Haywire Might, 1 Nature's Claim, 1 Strict Serenade, and 1 Swan Song. He will bring in the Grape Shot as another win condition. Doesn't want to get his Jace, exiled by a Tormod's Crypt if he mills it early. I love the Flame of Anors in this matchup. There's plenty of artifacts to hit. It's going to be a very grindy set of post-sideboard games, so I expect Flame of Anor to come in. Dismember will likely come in because, again, dealing with these early creatures is important. From there, it becomes interesting. You're going to want some number of disenchants, but not a lot. I think Nature's Claim might be excessive, but the fact that Haywire Might and Boseiju can be found off of Saga, I don't know, there are Sagas on the other side, so you're going to want all the disenchants.
Yep.
So those will likely come in as well. Dress Down could come in against opposing Sagas.
Mm-hmm.
The counter spells, this is a matchup where there are opposing counter spells. That's usually where they come in. But Metallic Rebuke is a soft counter.
Agreed.
You can play around that by developing your mana and just paying 3 extra on the key turns. So I doubt more counter spells will come in. It'll mainly be artifact enchantment removal and dismember.
Alrighty, as our players are shuffling up here for game number 2, I'd like to take this time to shout out our sponsors for ApexCon. We are sponsored by Moxfield.com. Moxfield is a great place to build and share decks with your friends. We're also sponsored by SpiceRack. SpiceRack.gg is a piece of tournament software run by some really wonderful people. And if you're looking to find a tournament in your area or run a tournament yourself, check out SpiceRack.gg today. We are sponsored by Ultimate Guard, the industry leader when it comes to TCG supplies. From the archive deck box to the katana sleeves, check your local game store for Ultimate Guard products today. And last but certainly not least, Once Upon a Galaxy is a brand new mobile game from the makers of Storybook Brawl. Comes an asynchronous auto battler you can find on the app store of your choice today with free to play. And it's a really fun game featuring characters such as Hercules and the Loch Ness Monster. If you're interested in auto battler games or you just really like phone games, come play Once Upon a Galaxy today.
So, Todd.
Yeah.
We have Franklin Folks here in our semifinals.
Yeah, he's right there.
Made the top 8 yesterday.
Sure did.
Right.
Logan
Underwood.
Mm-hmm.
Lost in our quarterfinals today to James Mangus, was in our top 4 yesterday. So that means these two players are even on points for the season. So Folks not only playing to potentially have the automatic invite to the Invitational at the end of the year, not only playing for a regional championship invite, he is playing for the pole position on the leaderboard for the season.
Yeah, and you definitely want to be in those top 8s, in that top 8 before the Invitational, because they will receive a buy during the Invitational itself. And a buy in a tournament worth $20,000 is crazy.
A lot on the line here for Franklin Folks. He is down a game against arguably the best deck in the format, and by arguably I mean the opposite. Inarguably the best deck in the format.
You're right on that. It is the best deck in the format by a wide margin. I believe at the most recent U.S. Regional Championship, it was 20 of the top 32 finishers, and it was 6 out of the top 8, and it was either 2 or 3 out of the top 4. It was incredible. I've never seen a tournament dominated like that by one deck. Never in my life.
Certainly not a 1,500-person tournament.
Full of people who qualified to get there, just the stone cold killers of the United States of America. And Canada.
Players looking at their opening hands. Folks, I see, has an Urza Saga. Not sure what else is in that hand.
See a Bauble, a Pithy Needle from Moscow, Savine's Reclamation. Not the greatest looking hand, if I'm being honest, and he throws it back. Franklin going to keep that 7. You're down a game. That's where you want to be. On the play and your opponent taking a mull. You always like a freebie. Moscow going to be going down to 6. I know that you have a lot of experience with Breach, Ross. What is your experience with like heavy mulligans, and how do you think it's going to affect him here?
The deck is very good at mulliganing because it has so much card advantage. And in the post-sports games, in almost any fair matchup, you're not looking necessarily to combo early. You can, if that's the way the game plays out, if your opponent stumbles or you have a particularly good draw, but you're looking to deploy Emery and Tomio early. You're looking to leverage Flame of Venor. You're looking to sometimes play Underworld Breaches as fair cards, just to rebuy maybe a removal spell and a Mishra's Bauble. And you leverage all of that card advantage to grind through the copious amounts of hate that every one of your opponents has. So because that's the way you're already approaching the matchup, it really helps inoculate you from severe mulligan issues.
Inoculate. That's a good word. I like that one. All right, going to go back to Moscow after a turn 1 Tormod's Crypt, and just a land for Moscow on turn 1. So much less explosive starts for both players, but hard to win through the Tormod's Crypt. So we'll see Moscow kind of jockey around it, maybe find an answer for it here in the next few turns. Meanwhile, Folk's going to have to apply some pressure. Let's see what he has for turn number 2.
Do you see a grinding station in that hand for Moscow? I definitely see a breach. I think he might have both. And this could be a problem if he's kept a hand that is very combo heavy.
I see a Nature's Claim too, though. So if he has Nature's Claim for Tormods, turn 2 can go grinding station, turn 3 can cast Breach, and maybe just win on the spot.
Unfortunately, this Emery is going to make that rather difficult. So you can destroy the Tormod script, but you have to have an answer to the Emery too, or it's coming back the very next turn.
All right, how about turn 2, Underworld Breach? Or sorry, turn 2, Grinding Station. Turn 3, Nature's Claim your Tormod's Crypt, Underworld Breach. Is that a kill? Oh, you need a 0? You need
a
too?
0, and you need a way to make that 0 make mana.
Mhm.
So with Mox Opal, you need another artifact. With Mox Amber, you need to deploy a legend. So you need a little bit on top of that, but it's doable.
Alright, and Moscow keeps a Lightning Bolt, so must have red mana already. Lightning Bolt's going to be used to take care of one of these 2 creatures here. Let's see which one he wants to go after. First, we're going to take a preordain and look at the top 2 before we make that decision.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slow hand here from Moscow, and Folks with a very nice first 2 turns. He's deployed a way to stop the combo, a way to recur that Piece of Hate and generate card advantage in Emery, and then a straight source of card advantage in Tomio. So now the onus is on Moscow to start answering these threats from Folks.
Okay, kills Tomio. Now I'll see Franklin might go eat Graveyard, get back Tormod's Crypt just to use the Emery in a minorly effective way.
Yeah, and that would just keep the Graveyard down for any potential shenanigans.
I think I see a rebuke from Franklin Folks as well. So I think we're kind of out of the woods in terms of like being afraid of dying anytime soon. Just now it's about trying to find that closing speed. But Saga will get there, especially if he kept in them Lava Spur boots.
Well,
1.
we already have an update from our backup match, Todd.
Oh, wow.
James Mangus just
Squish.
mowing down these Dumir Murktide players.
Squish.
2-0 over Constantine Kantartis.
Indestructible.
So congrats to Mangus on qualifying for November's Invitational. He awaits the winner of this match in our final.
Yeah, and his lion's share of the money, the prize money here, and the 5K, as well as a qualification to the regional championship. Congrats to him.
So Folks ending up with an attack by the Emery, just leaving the Tormod's Crypt on the battlefield, and it's going to try to ride this Urza Saga and the Metallic Rebuke he has in hand to victory here in Game 2.
All right, so I think Moscow has Nature's Claim, and I think there's a good chance we just go upkeep Nature's Claim on the Urza Saga. And if that's the play, Folks is going to have a tough choice about whether or not to rebuke it.
Could save it, but he wouldn't be able to make a construct this turn. Would only get the 1 construct on the following turn.
Decides to go for a Grinding Station, and Folks is going to counter that rather quickly. And he knows that the Underworld Breach can get it back, but it does require the extra mana, and I'm sure he's thinking about that as well.
And he also knows he has the Tormod script in play, so once the station is in the graveyard, he can exile it whenever he wants.
Right, good call. And now Moscow here, while the shields are down, you're going to go ahead and fetch with Scalding Tarn to get Breeding Pool, and Nature's Claim knocks off the Saga.
Moscow baited the counterspell with the Grinding Station. He wasn't planning on winning anytime soon. He's just trying to shut down all of Folks' pressure so he can then win a long game.
See if Folks is able to pick up anything special for Emery to do this turn. If not, maybe going to go ahead and eat the Graveyard. Looks like that's what's going to happen here. So pop goes the Weasel. And we're going to recast it, so now we're still safe from Underworld Breach. Back to Moscow. That's a blue card. It looks like Swan Song? Unclear.
Yeah, not sure what that is. I think the rest of...
That's it.
Okay. So tapped Soporific Springs for Moscow. I think the rest of his hand is Underworld Breach, Mox Opal, X.
It's a blue card, I think. All right, we're going to cast Portable Hole from the Graveyard just to increase our artifact count for Kappa Cannoneer. Finds Urza Saga. Josh Moscow maybe going to be taking this game down in a somewhat unconventional way. Folks.
But with Moscow on 13 and Folks on 24, I think a Kappa Cannoneer will erase these constructs.
Well, get into play first, man. Thing's expensive.
Finds a Mox Opal with the Emery Mill. That will get Folks up to 5 towards Cannoneer, just 1 short. So
has a land drop to play if he hasn't played one yet. Let me get back Pithing Needle. Oh, I like this play. And now we can Pithing Needle Urza Saga. And Moscow getting shut down. Puts his hands over his eyes. Knows that it's getting harder and harder to get out of the squeeze.
I missed that Pithing Needle hit.
Same.
That one was definitely better. So now the Saga locked down.
I'm assuming that's what it is. I mean, Folks has sagas of his own, so this is going to lock his down too. But when the opponent has a saga active, you just want to make sure that it doesn't bury you.
Yeah, and if Folks has Cannoneer in hand, he doesn't necessarily need to find sagas to win this game.
Right.
He has his win condition all rolled up.
Preordain to pick up from Moscow. I think the Strix Serenade, and that one does counter artifacts for 1 mana, right?
Yeah, and creatures,
Whew.
so
Finds the Jace as well. We're going to go ahead and play that, but Franklin ready with a Metallic Rebuke, and that Jace goes to the graveyard, and Tormod's Crypt can eat it.
and now Moscow doesn't have any mana for this Serenade. If this is indeed a Cannoneer that's been hanging out in Folks' hand, I think that is going to take down this game rather quickly.
All right, well, let's see. Folks here. Enough mana for the Kappa. Nope, gonna bobble you. I think that's a breach on top.
Okay, so now things get interesting. This saga can find Moscow's Needle and name Tormod's Crypt.
All right, it was a bobble on top. Okay, we're gonna fetch chapter 3 with Urza Saga. Can find Haywire Might, which can blow up something, and then that allows maybe breach to start going off.
Moscow doing a portable hole check here. I think he wants to get Pithing Needle and pivot back to a combo centric game plan.
Just Needle on Emery, you think?
Needle on Tormod's Crypt.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We'll get confirmation that that's the name, but
Yep.
there you go.
All right, well, let's see if Folks has any defense from hand, because right now, shields are down.
We know Moscow has Breach in hand and Mox Opal. Here is a Bauble.
And Mox, so we got a bunch of mana. Float 1. Crack Bauble maybe look at Self to see if we want to try to go for anything.
Could just breach back the Jace here. No,
So
he's one short.
one
of that.
short. Yeah, he can exile the Jace to cast like a Preordain to see if we find Malevolent Rumble to see if we can keep going. And I guess this is just going to be a value breach while, Folks is a little bit underwhelming. I would just pay. I just bobble. Just pay, bobble. Whatever. Draw a card. This card in hand is Strict Serenade, so it's going to leave him vulnerable again to Kappa Cannoneer. But, I mean, the Kappa Cannoneer is like a 2-turn clock, not a 3-turn clock, or not a 1-turn clock. So I think you might be able to just take it.
Oh, if he goes for that line of pay 3, escape Bauble, he's going to need to find another breach and a grinding station from very little graveyard.
Well, what's the alternative if he doesn't pay?
Potentially buying himself more time against Cannoneer.
Ah, no, that's fair. Okay. And we do have a bobble draw coming as well, so we can kind of set up again for later. I'm not sure how many breaches are gone. At least one, but maybe two.
And now Folks has to know that there's some piece of interaction in hand. If Moscow had nothing, he would have just paid and played the baubles. So should be able to sniff something out. And has portable holes, so that will take out Moscow's Needle. And we'll turn back on the Tormod's Crypt for Folks.
Yep, and no reason to try to counter this or whatever. Emery will just bring it back. So now, if we have Kappa Cannoneer, we can deploy it, but Saga is going to be the play. It doesn't activate for the constructs, though, thanks to his own Pithing Needle from multiple turns earlier. Emery going to target Mistress Bauble in the graveyard. Start drawing some cards. Folks gonna tap 2 for Lavinia Azorius Renegade. Let's get this one on the screen because we don't see it too often, but it's a potentially powerful sideboard card here. Lavinia Azorius Renegade is a 2-mana 2/2. Opponents can't cast non-creature spells with mana value greater than the number of lands that player controls. Normally pretty good against Tron decks. And then whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So stops Moxen.
Yeah, that is the relevant aspect of the card in this matchup, and notably that ability is not symmetric. It only affects the opponent, so Folks can still freely cast all of his 0-mana artifacts with Lavinia on the battlefield.
All right, looks like it's Kappa Cannoneer time. And here is the Strix Serenade to stop it. Strix Serenade, a newer addition to these decks, along with a Swan Song. These 1-mana counter spells get the job done.
And the problem here is that Emery can just recast the Kappa Cannoneer next turn. So this only ever was going to buy Moscow a turn against the Cannoneer, and he could have drawn an extra card, which is basically like taking an extra turn. And as it turns out, Folks didn't have it on the exact following turn, so Moscow really just cost himself a card by not paying for the Metallic Rebuke on Breach.
So you're saying I'm right? I was right the whole time.
Unfortunately, at this point in the game, there's just too many hate cards to answer. You have to figure out an answer to the Lavinia and the Tormod's Crypt while assembling the full combo.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult.
This is normally the type of game where something like Urza Saga would be very helpful, but Franklin even has an answer for that with the Pith and Needles. So it's just been a really tough sled for Moscow, and Franklin's just had the answer at every point.
If Folks didn't have the graveyard hate, if it was just a bunch of other lock pieces, then one Breach could potentially allow you to cast one answer from your graveyard multiple times. But with the Tormod Script and not having access to a line like that, it's going to be very difficult. Okay, so Emery milling Haywire Might is nice, but with the Emery on Folks' side, Folks can just proactively use his Tormod Script this turn and then redeploy it. So it's still available for a later Breach, and stops Moscow's Emery from doing anything dangerous.
Okay, Folks here fetching with Urza Saga, floating a mana. Can go get Shadow Spear, maybe Lava Spur Boots, something like that.
Maybe just another Tormod Script.
Oh no, it's the boots. It's time to get hasty.
And is this going to be lethal?
See, we're at 11. There's a blocker for Emery. Kappa Cannoneer plus equip.
So
yeah, packs it in. Moscow says, uh-oh, big Kappa coming. Make sure we give all the cards back. Lots of portable holes. Okay, so 1-1. We know that the winner of this match is going to go on to face James Mangus in the finals, playing that really powerful Orzhov Ketramos deck. All right, on the play, game number 3, Josh Moscow on Breach. You think he can do it?
Absolutely. It's the best deck, Todd.
Yeah, but sometimes the best deck loses. Sometimes the best deck loses. Otherwise, we wouldn't play the game, you know?
Being on the play, I think, a big advantage because Folks has to set up his defenses and establish a clock. It's so much more likely for him to be in a spot where he leaves open an early window to be comboed, and Moscow can steal a certain percentage of the games that way, and he still has to feel good about his ability to play the game going along. His issue in that second game was he didn't have the early threats. Only Folks did. Folks had both Tomio and Emery cast on turn 2.
Yep.
Moscow had one Lightning Bolt, so the creature advantage was to Folks. If Moscow can establish creature advantage here in game 3, he should be in good shape, even if Folks has several pieces of hate.
Look, the fact of the matter is, both these decks are very similar in terms of early generation, right? We have Tomio, Moxen, Emery, and that shared portion of the deck means that it's a focal point. And if one person is able to get more of those onto the table before the other one, or unable to deal with all of them, they just run away with the game. We've seen Tomio do some extremely powerful stuff. And, I mean, that game, Emery was available every single turn after turn number 2 to be activated. Yeah. No disruption from Moscow at all.
Emery has been the MVP in both games. Yeah. Just one time for each play.
It do be like that.
Very, very powerful card.
All right, players here are shuffling up for game number 3. This is the semifinals. Only one match to go after this one where we'll crown a champion.
The winner of this match will qualify for an upcoming regional championship as well as November's Apex Invitational. So a ton on the line in this match. That said, the loser here will still take home plenty of leaderboard points to put themselves in position for an at-large bid. Folks, having top-aided yesterday, is already in great position in that regard. But, you know, it feels good to be able to lock up the qualification early, and then
you get to play goofy decks all year.
Yeah, be able to spend the rest of the year with
have fun.
Much less pressure on you.
These qualifiers are always intense here at the Apex Gaming home store. Not only are there $5,000 of cash and prizes on the line, but we just have serious competition trying to get to that invitational. All
Okay.
right, players look like they're about to be ready, so let's head on back down. Semifinals, game 3. Franklin folks.
Both players keep 7. Moscow leads on a hedge maze, so somewhat slow draw. I see a Scalding Tarn and I see an Urza Saga. Okay, and it has a bauble.
Okay, puts the Jason to the graveyard. Doesn't want to draw it, and with the, I guess, Grape Shot also probably somewhere in the 60. Still able to win even if there's an early Tormod's Crypt. Here's a Artifact Land and a Mishra's Bauble, and we're going to pass back. Moscow doesn't crack Bauble, which signifies to me that he probably has Mox Opal here.
Yeah, I think this is Pithing Needle Mox Opal.
Preordain, top 2. The recently unbanned Preordain looking quite good in these Underworld Breach decks. It's such a powerful card for finding exactly one thing, and Underworld Breach can be a 1-card kill.
And I see a Breach in Moscow's hand, so no threats, but otherwise still solid. And he does have the Urza Saga. Looks like he decided to keep Flame of Anor. We'll need to find a creature to really turn that card on.
Okay, we are going to play Pith and Needle and name Tormod's Crypt. We're going to go back to Franklin Folks, turn number 2. See if he can deploy some threats. Maybe contain this Pith and Needle and put a Tormod's Crypt into play to protect from that breach.
Yeah, it does have a portable hole in hand. I can see that, so that option is available, but he can wait on that if he doesn't have the Tormod's Crypt just yet.
Well, here's a powerful sideboard card, Lavinia, Azorius, Renegade. We had that one last game come down late. This is going to stop zeros from being a problem. It also stops Emery from bringing back zeros as well.
Okay, so Moscow sacks the bauble on Folks' end step, peeks at the top card, draws 2 cards on his turn, and now is going to look to leverage these Urza Sagas. Found a second copy.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and fetch, find Steam Vents, and we're going to start making some constructs.
Yeah, this is the kind of game that Franklin Folks is happy to play. If he's not being disrupted, and now you see him have a saga of his own, his constructs are going to be a lot bigger than Moscow's. His deck has a much higher density of artifacts with Razortide, Bridge.
And now, even if Moscow is able to find more artifacts after this, the majority of them cost 0, and Lavinia is just shutting them down.
Also true. So I think Moscow is going to have to find a more combo-centric way of winning this game, and that might be tough. That's the 1 copy of the Stone Brain in Folks' sideboard.
Yeah, so we might be all in on these Urza's Sagas, which might not be the greatest plan in the world, considering Folks' deck. Okay. But we got to do what we got to do.
So Moscow does have a Haywire Might likely in the deck, so Urza Saga can find Haywire Might with Folks only on 1 untapped mana and deal with the Stone Brain. But does he have the mana to do that and make another construct to keep playing this aspect of the game?
All right, makes a construct token. All right, gonna go back to Moscow's Way. No dispatches or anything. We do see another Urza Saga drawn, so that might just be the plan, and it might be a pretty good plan.
No, but does he have an untapped? Okay, has Breeding Pool, so can make a construct, find Haywire Might, play Breeding Pool, deal with the Stone Brain.
I don't even want to deal with the Stone Brain, Ross. I just want to kill them with constructs. I just want to construct, play another Urza Saga, go get like a Mishra's Bauble or something you can sacrifice, or maybe even a Mox Opal so you have a little extra mana, then attack, and then attack again, and then attack again until Franklin Folks is dead, because his entire deck is built around Metallic Rebukes and Tormod's Crypts, which are insanely hard to beat.
Well, Folks has a Portable Hole in hand and a Saga in play to roadblock Moscow's constructs. I don't think that game plan is going to work out that well.
And Moscow agrees. He's going to not make a construct here, just float a mana while he goes and digs. We'll see what he grabs.
So has some other play to make here. He's counting out a play that makes me think he might be trying to combo.
I agree.
But that seems rather difficult from this position. Doesn't have a Malevolent Rubbler and Emery to start digging through the deck for Grinding Station.
Yeah, and the Haywire might actually to me signifies the other way. He's probably not going to try to combo this turn, but might be wanting to kill that Stone Brain to make sure he doesn't get clobbered.
Okay, so what is he planning to use this mana on? Oh wow, I think he drew Grinding Station. So he has Grinding Station Breach in in hand, but was a mana short.
If he gets
No,
Mox Opal,
yeah,
I
he could
think
have
he
found.
just has it. Oh, he can't play zeros, remember?
Oh yeah, because of the Lavinia. So he
Yeah.
doesn't have an answer to the Lavinia yet. That's why he couldn't combo. Okay. He does have an answer to that in hand with the Flame of Nor, and that's what he's planning to cast. So Moscow trying to end this game next turn because he has all of the pieces. Does Folks have an answer?
Well, all he's staring down right now is a 2/2, so if he has a bunch of instant speed answers to hold up, he can do that. He has this Urza Saga, which can make some pressure as well. But it looks like we're going to tap 2 again, and we're taking a damage, so this is probably a second Lavinia. Yeah, the other Lavinia with
Wow.
sideboard, and Josh Moscow is under the gun again.
Yeah, because now if you can't answer the Lavinia and combo next turn, Folks can find a Tormod's Crypt with the Saga and then use the portable hole in hand to deal with Moscow's Pithing Needle.
Saga number 2 from Moscow. I'm not sure how I would have played this game in Moscow's seat, but my gut was screaming to just go all in on sagas, and it looks like Moscow was trying to go the other direction, and it might not be enough.
Yeah, Folks naturally drawing a lot of his better sideboard cards, both Lavinia's and the one copy of the Stone Brain.
And while Moscow has some answers for these cards, he's just shy of being able to deal with them all.
Looks like,
Otawara?
okay, Otawara bouncing the Urza Saga to delay
Okay.
the search. That way, Moscow only needs to find an answer to the Lavinia.
All right, back to Folks. Plays the Saga again. And now Moscow has Saga Supremacy again. He'll be able to make Saga tokens and grow them pretty easily over the next few turns.
Yeah, so I think his plan will be to lean on Folks with his own constructs, force Folks to tap out to deal with that aspect of his game, and in the meantime, find an answer to the Lavinia and set up a combo turn.
All right, here's Portable Hole from Folks. Let's see what he wants to take. And he's going to kill the Construct. Doesn't have Tormod's Crypt, so doesn't want to go after the Pithing Needle just yet. Here's a Tamio, so an attack for 2. Now we have a bunch of mana here if we do have Metallic Rebuke as our last card, so I think we could probably go ahead and just pop at least 1, maybe 2 of these baubles to dig for it. Alright, it looks like he already has the Rebuke, so no need to pop the second bauble just yet.
Buke should solidify Folks' advantage here. He's the one who's drawing cards. He has a way to stop this combo. Just needs to close out the game.
So, it looks like Moscow has Underworld Breach in hand. Do you think there's any line or logic for going for a value breach here? Maybe just breach into Flame of Anor to try to kill this Lavinia?
I think he's just going to try to make enough land drops where he can breach into Flame of Anor, kill Lavinia, and then go off.
Okay.
Because the Saga is currently on 2. There's nothing, it's going to potentially find Pithing Needle next turn on Grinding Station to be another lock piece.
Folks here drew Damping Sphere. That's another hate piece.
Ugh. And really, once again, the downfall for Moscow in this game was not having an early creature. If that Flame of Nor was multiple modes and he drew 2 cards off of it, and then he could breach it from the graveyard and kill both the Damping Sphere and the Lavinia, he could easily find his way through all of this hate. But without that early creature, it's a lot harder because he hasn't been able to execute the card advantage fair game part of the breach deck nearly as effectively.
All right, Moscow going to fetch. Probably make a construct token as well. Find Stomping Ground.
Just the one Surveil land as Hedge Maze in Moscow's list, so can't find another one here.
Volks is so close, he can taste it. With a win here, he locks up a regional championship berth and an invitation to our invitational later this year. I gotta come up with a better word for that. That's silly. Okay, construct.
Chapter 3 on Moscow Saga could potentially find Aether Spellbomb to remove Lavinia. Then he still has to find a way to remove the Damping Sphere. Flame of Norn nominally could do that, but it will cost him so much mana.
Mm-hmm. All right, Moscow deep in the tank. Chapter 3 is on the stack. We can make a construct, float a mana. We're trying to puzzle together how we win this game, because if we can't figure out how to win this turn, we need to consider making a construct. We have to defend against our opponents, and we have to try to find a way to win a long game.
Yeah, Moscow's never going to win the construct game against this Azorius deck. Way too many artifacts. Folks still has 4 constructs to come with these 2 Urza sagas, so
Yeah,
that line I think has passed.
I agree.
The only thing the constructs are going to do is buy Moscow time to try to weasel his way out of all of these hate pieces.
All right, construct time. And then chapter 3. Their Spellbomb would be a nice one. And there it is. Finds it. It's going to grow constructs to a 4/4. Franklin's are way bigger. Now, Moscow's got to try to find a way to win through Damping Sphere and Lavinia, Azorius Renegade, while these constructs are beating him down.
Yeah, I think he will want to deploy Grinding Station if it's in his hand just to save himself the mana on his eventual combo turn.
I think he's got 2 zeros. I think it's
Yeah.
Breach 2 zeros, and Lavinia's just crushing him.
Thought he had a Grinding Station. I know he has Breach Mox Opal for sure. That's 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, the other one looked old border, but I can't. I think it was an old border Mox Opal, but we'll see. All right, here's the construct, and now Franklin in the driver's seat. A lot of protection and a lot of material to work with still.
So the saga that's about to go to chapter 3 can find Pithing Needle on Grinding Station as another lock piece.
All right, both sagas should be ticking up or about to tick up here.
Could also find Lava Spur Boots to try to apply more pressure to Moscow.
Okay, and they both go up, make one saga. Well, if the saga's in the graveyard, then we're searching. So the saga could still be in play if Moscow wants to respond. But we're going to let it go, and folks can go search. Is there an Aether Spellbomb in Franklin's deck? I don't think I saw
There
one.
is not. There is Pithing Needle.
Okay.
Could also just name Aether Spellbomb.
That's probably what it's going to do, just to make sure that these constructs get in there. We'll see, though. There's still so much to beat. And just 14, I believe. 2 hits from constructs is going to end it. So we're going to have to be in chump block mode quickly, especially if that's on Aether Spellbomb, which I would imagine it is. Folks take some very aggressive lines in moments like these, and I really like naming Spellbomb here. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you're Josh Moscow. Here's the plan. You chump these constructs. You
Only
draw.
one can attack this turn, luckily.
You draw Dress Down.
Oh, yeah? How many of those you got?
1.
Oh, I didn't know you had any. Nice. Here comes another clue. Now we're counting them up. This looks like a lot. We're going to chump 1. Take 0 from the Tamio. Franklin says go and is going to draw a card with the bauble. And now, can Moscow punch through?
Lava Spur Boots from Folks could potentially end this game by giving him 3 attacking constructs to only 1 blocker.
Previous rounds are any indication, Franklin Folks has removed that from his deck, but this is a combo matchup, a type of matchup where you normally want that type of thing. Here is what I would call a desperation underworld breach from Moscow. Let's see how Franklin wants to
Yeah, we
respond.
know Folks has been sitting on a Metallic Rebuke for several turns now, so that just works. Now Moscow should be paying 2 for that.
Yep, from the Damping Sphere. And he
Yep.
does.
Plays a Tomio.
And says go. And Folks here now. Maybe going to line up a kill. Don't know if he has one guaranteed.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 artifacts in play right now. The Saga makes a 10th and then searches for an 11th, and then Tomio makes a 12th. So if you get Lava Spur Boots and equip the new construct and attack with everything,
Well,
Moscow can block 2 constructs, take 12 from the other one, and take 2 from Lavinia for 14.
got some news for you, Ross. He did not make a construct, which means it's Kappa time. You capping out here, Ross?
Kappa is less damage than a construct.
It's also unblockable.
Yeah, but one of the constructs, now both constructs get chump blocked, and Kappa Cannoneer plus Lavinia comes through for less than lethal. So.
Okay, well, it's Kappa time. How about that? Here it is. +1 counter. He's the one floating. Equip it. Oh, he's recounting, but 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now it's got haste. Can't be blocked. 2 dead Mox in Moscow's hand. Tommy was a forced block, so a Flame of Nor off the top has no potential chain.
Yeah, that would be an out for Moscow if he could rip a fully powered Flame of Anor. But this is an unblockable 6/5 Cannoneer. Now going to be a 7/6 from the clue, so have to chump both constructs. Going to fall to 7.
Yeah, the Lavinia missed attack, though. That was like a guaranteed double block on the constructs, so -2 damage. Hopefully it won't come back to bite him, but we're going to go back to Moscow and see if he has a miracle in him. Miracle? Malevolent Rumble. Okay, top 4.
That's probably the best draw.
Well, finds nothing. That's it. Franklin Folks gonna win this match and go on to the finals with that Azorius Affinity deck off the beaten path, off meta, into the finals, into the regional championship, into the invitational.
It's a sad day.
No more breach. No more breach for Ross.
Out with a whimper goes Underworld Breach.
See ya never, nerd! Thank God. Underworld Breach finally defeated through all of history. I have been waiting for this day.
A few too many sideboard cards there from Franklin Folks in Game 3, and Moscow just didn't have the card advantage necessary to grind through all of them.
Wow. Fun match, though. Franklin Folks takes it down 2-1, moves to the finals, where he'll fight James Mangus on Orzhov Ketramos.